All right, guys, welcome back to FFC Studios. This is episode number 34. And as you guys can see, we are somewhere a little bit remote, a little bit different with our good friend, Mr. Ivan Flores, right here in his podcast studio. So I'm sure you guys have seen his podcast studio in his Instagram. And if you haven't, check it out below. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and support. But Ivan, thank you for having us. Thank you for having us coming out here to your podcast studio. Beautiful room, by the way.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, man.
Congratulations on all the success you've been having. And, I mean, tell us a little bit about what you have going on here. Why did you invest so much money here?
Oh, man, this was...
I saw this room change. I saw videos of this room change.
Yeah, bro. So, thank you, first of all, for making the time to come in and do this, right? It's very important. Obviously, that's the reason I started a podcast was to educate not just the Hispanic community, but any entrepreneur that's out there starting or is going through struggles, or even a successful entrepreneur. So I wanted to share my story, share all the entrepreneurs that I bring here, right? So I created a room just for that, right? And the number one reason why I created this room, though, was to leave legacy content for my kids. I know at some point I'm going to pass away, hopefully not soon, but I want them to have that memory of who their father was, the mistakes he made, how he grew from what he was to a businessman. And I think it's very important. I wish I had that type of information of my grandparents, right? Or even my mom, right, as she was growing up. So that was actually the number one reason why I created this.
Okay. No, congrats on everything. I know for those of you watching us for the first time, of course, welcome to FFC Studios, and welcome to Mr. Ivan Flores' experience as well. We're going to put his information down below so you guys can like and subscribe there too. For us, it's a channel of three things: educating you guys and empowering you guys as people, as entrepreneurs that want to learn from others that have already done it. Number two, of course, there's the business side of things. There's legal side of things. Want to make sure you guys are, more than anything else, educated on how to do things right foundationally. And number three, well, I'm sure our guest, like Mr. Ivan here, has a lot of fun stories that we're going to be touching today, which we can all learn from. And so make sure you guys like and subscribe to his channel as well, because there's a lot of valuable content there. But like I always tell everybody when at the beginning of the podcast, there's a lot of people that know you, but there's a lot more people that don't know you. Yep. So why don't you give them a little intro as to how the heck all this started, man, and tell them a little bit about you, because there's a lot of noise on social media right now happening because of you.
Yeah, I've built a lot of noise, and it's been on purpose, right? Mm-hmm. So you can understand who I am, I have to go way back. So as a kid, I grew up in San Isidro in San Diego, California, close to the border between Tijuana and San Isidro. So part of the time that I grew up in Tijuana, I went on vacation over there with my grandparents, etc. But the reason I ended up in San Isidro was because my mom, she crossed the border. My dad had left her, and she had to bring me and my brothers to the U.S., right? So growing up in the U.S., obviously, we grew up in a low-income neighborhood, tough neighborhood, obviously, between drugs, gangs, etc. And we didn't have that privilege of going into a good school district, right? So growing up, going straight into school, all I knew was Spanish. When I went to school, it's English, and they ended up flunking me because I didn't know how to communicate.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so...
That's a struggle for a lot of people.
It's a struggle for a lot of people. Even as a grown up, I tell people, I'm still in ESL, man. You know what I mean? Yeah. So through all my high school years, elementary, it was all ESL. But the reason I'm talking about that specific time of the story is because at that time it made me feel stupid. So you go to school, they tell you got to flunk. Your friends go to the next grade, and that's where it all started, right? It just created that little grudge of not going to school. They made you feel stupid, and you keep going. And you kind of start believing that at one point, right? So fast forward, right? I end up obviously, I did okay in school, right? But I ended up selling candies at school. I had that little entrepreneur mindset, and I ended up at the 6th grade. I made 3 big decisions, right? I ended up deciding that I was going to quit school mentally, and then I also decided that I was going to start selling drugs. I wanted to be the biggest drug dealer in the world. And I also had
a big change, huh? From candy to drugs.
Yeah, bro, but that's all we knew in the streets, right? In San Isidro, that's all we knew. We had the polleros, the drug dealers crossing shit over from Tijuana to here. So all our neighborhoods, that's all we knew. So I saw that lifestyle, I liked it. And then, so the third decision I made in 6th grade is I wanted to open a restaurant because I had a friend that brought a burrito, California burrito. And I just liked what he said, right? His dad made a lot of money, etc. So at that young age, I knew I made those 3 decisions. Obviously, one of them I made it, both of them, right? I became a drug dealer, and that I obviously don't do that anymore. But then I opened a restaurant, right? So yeah, man, you know, I had a tough childhood, but it was the best childhood that anybody could ask for. Even though we didn't have no money, we just had a lot of fun, man, playing soccer out there. And we played soccer. I mean, you know, we were really good at soccer. My brother even played professional at one point. But just growing up in the streets was the funnest part of my life. And even though we're broke, when you're young, you don't notice that. It's when you start growing up that you start noticing that, oh, you know, Jordans, Nikes, you know, branded stuff. But yeah, man, that's my childhood. So moving forward from 6th grade through elementary, they ended up passing me to high school. And I ended up getting my girlfriend at that time, which is now my wife, pregnant with my son, right? And so I get her pregnant. I end up dropping out of high school. I think it was 9th grade, going into 10th grade. And I end up dropping out. I couldn't even find a job because you needed to have a high school education. Yeah, you need at least something, a work permit or something. So I ended up having to work under the table for a lot of jobs, right? Working under the table while I was selling drugs. So I sold drugs from 6th grade to obviously to like I was 25 years old or so, mid-20s. And so I started with an ounce of marijuana, grew that to a quarter pound, to a pound, to a lot of pounds. So I was doing very well.
Know the last name Flores, huh?
They do, bro. There's people. I mean, I've seen on my Instagram, right? You know, like I gained a lot of respect out in the streets. I could say I didn't have enemies, you know, that I knew of, but I had a lot of respect because of who I was and how I handled myself out there, right? Just kind of the way I handle myself out here right now. But I built a very good business as a drug dealer. And I think that's one of the reasons that I was able to build a successful business now is because the streets teach you a different type of business acumen. And a lot of that, I think, is gut feeling.
I know it's funny you mentioned that. So a lot of people, I totally get what you're saying because I didn't do the drugs part, but I was always hustling in high school and middle school and stuff like that. But when you mentioned about the streets, it's very different. Street smarts are very different than just book smarts. What are some of those lessons you think you learned in the streets that really helped you become successful later in life? Because there's a lot of people watching us that they have that natural born hustler in them.
Yeah.
But they don't know how to take that from hustling to business.
You know, it's not that different. The only difference in the corporate world is that a lot of these gangsters are wearing suits. You know, in the streets they handle it a little bit different, right? But in the business world, it's a signature, it's a contract, right? People could do you very dirty. So what you gain from the streets is that intuition. You know how to read people. It's hard to explain, but I'm able to tell by somebody's eyes if they're gonna do me dirty or if they're just faking it, etc. It doesn't mean that people get by, right? But that's an intuition that I got, right, from the streets. And then another thing is you're able to use that to your advantage, right? You know that person's gonna betray you, or you know that person's not there for you. So, but you let them be in your group because it benefits you. They don't know that you know. So it's a powerful thing you could get from the streets. And then there's other things, right? You learn like, I don't know calculus or anything like that, but I learned how to multiply, add, subtract, divide. I got that through the streets too, right? There's a lot of similarities when it comes to the business world. But I think the biggest one is that intuition, that gut feeling of that awareness that you get in the streets that you don't get from a book in school.
How did you? I mean, I don't know if your family knew what you were doing, but how were those conversations at home?
They were, you know, obviously my mom, she never asked, but they knew I was up to something, right? You know, at 12, 13 years old, you know, I was paying my own bills. I was
like the Scarface scene when you walked in with the suit, Mama.
Yeah,
I made it.
Your hijo made it, Mama. You know. Yeah, so, you know, she knew what I was up to. You know, at one point, you know, they found a lot of pounds in my closet. They were going to kick me out. And I told them, hey, don't burn them, you know, because obviously if you burn them, because they wanted to throw them away, right? And that was a long time. I think I was like 14 or 15. And I told them, don't throw them away because, I mean, I could get in a lot of trouble and it will not end up good for me. And she ended up okay. She was crying, etc. And I feel really bad. A lot of the things that I did, I made them go through because obviously they're stressed out, right? But a lot of the time, my mom was praying for me. She's a Christian woman, a big woman of faith, and I always thank her for always never giving up on me for prayer, right? She was always there for me, praying for me. And obviously, they suffered a lot because of the stuff I was doing. She was worried for her son. She knows what I was up to, and especially the way I was escalating in that world. She saw that, and she was getting more worried as time progressed. So the conversations were not good. Obviously, they didn't approve of it, but I was already out of their hands. I didn't have a dad, so it was just pretty my mom and my brothers too, right? My brothers were all boys. Men are men, right? Boys are boys. Yeah, hey, wait, no, hey, wait. They were telling me, hey, wait, no manches, you know, like, aliviánate, etc. And one of my older brothers, you know, he was kind of in that lifestyle too a little bit, so we would have fun. But they would, sí me jalaban la oreja de vez en cuando. Yeah.
Now that you're a parent, I mean, for the parents here, and I know this is completely maybe business off topic, but yeah, I think it's important too because I'm a parent myself, and if your kids went through something like that now, as a parent, how can you lead a child like that? What do you recommend for parents that are looking to just support and encourage a kid that's maybe not knowing what path to go down currently? And as a parent, I know there's a lot of parents watching this that, hey, they don't know how to support a kid or a child or an individual of theirs that just doesn't know what direction to go but wants to get ahead. How would you?
You know, the way I did it with my kid is I told them who I was, right? And I think in my situation is that the more you push a kid in being too strict, I think you push them away to do those things, right? So what I did, my tactic was that, number one, I tried to get my kids out of that environment as soon as possible. The environment I grew up, you know, my grandma has always said it, and it's just es un dicho mexicano, is dime con quién andas, te diré quién eres. Yeah. So the environment you're at has a big role in who you really become. Yep. You know, so I took my kid out of that environment. You know, obviously we got out of San Isidro, we got out of certain streets, and then I also taught on my life, right? Hey, dude, like if you do this, this is the route. And then I know for a fact that you could only guide your kids or whoever a certain amount, right? That's all you could do, but at least do your job to be diligent enough to show them what that is, right? And as long as you do that, you can't really stress too much about how they're going to turn out because they're going to make a decision. My mom wasn't a drug dealer. My grandparents were drug dealers. I made that decision. So I don't think we should be stressed with that burden how we turn out because everybody's going to end up making some decisions in their life sooner or later. And hopefully you show them the right values along the way where they don't flip on that, right? So I try not to stress. Like, for example, my son, my 21-year-old, got his girlfriend pregnant. And I told him for many, many times, because I went through it. Yeah. Hey, dude, number one, don't have sex too young, right? Because it's against our beliefs. And number two, if you do end up having sex, because I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to instill, push you, no, you got to do this. Make sure you use protection. And if you don't, then this could happen, right? And that happened. So when he told me, I got a little bit pissed off, and I'm like, it is what it is. You already talked to you. That's your thing, right? So that's how the way I handle things, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm a true believer, and I talk to my team around here too. Venimos solos y nos vamos solos. And you're here to build your own journey, and everybody else besides is going to build their own journey. So you can't stress too much about that. And I tell my wife the same thing.
Yeah. No, love that. No, I hopefully that adds a lot of value because I know there's different perspectives on and just parenting, but I think that is a good mindset to have for anybody you influence over. So yeah, awesome. And tell me about the transition. So you were in the streets, you were doing all these things, and how did you get into the restaurant industry? What in the world came about to lead you this path?
And that's a long story, man. You know, I'm going to try to put it in an hour, right? But at the end of the day, I was doing really good. And in drug dealer life, there's ups and downs just like in business. And at one point, you know, I think I was in my 23 or so. I don't even have the time frames right exact, right? But I was doing very good. But at one point, everything started closing, all the doors. My biggest connect started getting caught. Some of my good friends got killed. A lot of people started going to jail. Just everything started crumbling within a year span. And at that time, I just didn't learn, man. Like I went through so many things, right? Even at one point, I got tied up, right, in a big drug deal. There's a lot of things I went through within those 13, 14 years of being a drug dealer that I remember my mom always telling me, hey, acuérdate que Dios está contigo. I'm praying for you. But if one day you feel you're going to get killed, because she knew how deep I was, right? Just ask God for forgiveness. ask him for forgiveness, and I know he'll grant you that, and así te vas con él, right? And so all that started happening, and I ended up one day, obviously I went to jail for a couple of months, got out, still kept doing my own thing, and I still was making good money. And then one day I learned how to do this workout from jail. It's called a burpee. I did a burpee. I jump up, I felt this big thump in my heart, and I'm like, that's kind of weird. Everybody knows their own body, right? So I sit down, and my heart just wouldn't stop. So 5 minutes pass, and my heart is just going faster. I go take a shower to try to see what's going on, and it wouldn't stop. So I sit down, and I'm like, no, I got to call 911. I call 911. They come. The paramedics come in. They rush in, and they take my heart rate, and you could tell by their eyes that they were worried. And so they took me to the ambulance, and they're like, hey, dude, you know what? You might go into cardiac arrest because your heartbeat is at 265 or so, resting heart rate. You could even see like my chest going up and down. So that happened, and I'm like, you know what? I'm in the hospital bed. Obviously, they injected something where they controlled my heart rate. I even asked them, what did they inject? He's like, this was to stop your heart. I'm like, oh crap, right? So I'm in the hospital bed, and I told, you know what? I think it's time. I did that prayer, and I told God, you know what? If you really do exist, I'm giving you my life now. I don't want to know anything about that old life. Forgive me for all the sins, the stuff I was doing. And I'm ready to give you my life. And that's when I made that decision, and that's the transition I had in my life, leaving that old life to the new life. I became a reborn Christian, you could say.
So I appreciate you sharing that. That's a mental transition.
Yeah.
How did the streets take it? Because I know there's a lot of people, and even in our office, obviously I'm not going to say any names, but there's a lot of people who come who want to make that transition, but it's very difficult.
Yeah.
To close that door. Because sometimes that door doesn't allow you to close it.
Yeah.
How did you make that transition?
Yeah, so in the streets is a little bit different. Luckily, I've always been my own boss. I've always done my own thing. I never became part of any organization. I've always done my own thing. That's why I never wanted to work for somebody, right? But that transition, what was hard from the streets is letting go of the lifestyle, right? And then also what people started talking about me. Oh, he's soft. He's becoming soft. Hey, yeah, eres cristiano. Like, it's just like, you know, they would tell me, if you're scared, go to church, you know? So I was like, you know what? But I didn't care, bro. Like, honestly, I found a new love, and it was to serve God at that time. And I still serve God, right? it's just at a whole different level. But back then I didn't care. You know, there was people that owed me a lot of money, and I just said, I don't want it. They would come and try to pay me. I don't want it. And I, you know, like I said, you know, I built a lot of relationships, but I closed all those doors. Just like now, like I don't hang out with people. You could say there's friends, but there's camaradas, right? What do you say in English? Is comrades? Comrades, right? I think there's very few friends in this world. Most of them are camaradas. So that transition mentally was very hard for me because I went from making a lot of money, being my own boss, to becoming a Christian and thinking that God was going to fix everything, and things became worse for me. Mm-hmm. Why did they become worse? Because now I had to work for $9 an hour for somebody else telling me when to clock in and clock out. Barely having enough money to pay my bills, my wife having to work a job. That was very hard because what happened after that, I became depressed and anxious because I'm a true believer that everybody in this world comes with a purpose. And for many years, and I'm not gonna lie, I still miss the game sometimes, right? I miss that life once in a while. Yeah, we'll play some dice, you know. But when you don't have a purpose, that's when you become depressed, I think. And my purpose was taken away, at least I thought. But God had a bigger plan for me. He just wanted me to go through that storm to clean me from all those bad habits, all those bad thoughts, who I was. It took years to clean me, man. You know, you can't just switch de la noche a la mañana. And God kind of did that for me, but he made me lose all my friends, all the money. He made me go through, like, man, he humbled me, bro. It was a big humbling part, and that was the hardest part, to be honest.
Yeah, no, true, very true. And I've heard this saying before. It's sometimes a lot of us, we come with a lot of negative, and we have negative inside. It's hard to just get rid of it. You sometimes have to dilute it with other things, and I guess that's where religion came in, that's where family came in, and all the other things that came in. How did you stumble into the restaurant industry, or were you already did you learn how to cook in prison or what
No. You know, I told you in 6th grade, that was my dream, one of my dreams, right? But what happened, that job that I got for $9 an hour was delivering fish to restaurants.
Okay.
So when I ended up driving to the restaurants, delivering the fish, that spark that I had in the 6th grade, that dream was reborn. So I started seeing the cooks. I started seeing what restaurants are busy, how they were doing it. And at that time, I ended up having an auto detailing business that was doing okay. I would just work it on the Sundays, and it would give me a couple of $1,000s per month because I was fleet washing. So I had that business for years. So what I did, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to open a restaurant. I got to get out of this $9 an hour job, right? And I'm just going to go work at a restaurant. So what I did, I ended up working at San Diego Seafood in Chesapeake. It was Chesapeake first and then San Diego Seafood from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Then from 5:30 to 6 p.m. at a restaurant till midnight, 1 in the morning, pretty much 6 days a week. And then my auto detailing business on Sundays. So that way I saved the money, right, to open the restaurant, and then also got some of the experience as a restaurant, which I didn't get much. It was just I was a dishwasher for almost a year, bro, you know?
What do you say to those people that say they don't have any time? I think this is one of the, I completely understand you. While I was building my company, I was working 8 to 5, drive home, change, shower, say hi to my son, take off 6 to 11, 12, whatever. So what do you say to those people that say they don't, or that think they don't have time to pursue their goals, to pursue their passions, to pursue anything else they have going on?
I think, and this is me personally, I think it's an excuse. And I'll tell you why, because I just launched this whole podcasting. I just launched social media. Like you just said right now, I've been out there a lot right now. I just added like 50, 40 hours to my week. And that's for me even building this $50 million business, dealing with all the operations, right, as a CEO. So it's just an excuse a lot of the time. You will find the time, but you just got to prioritize what's important to you. That's the difference.
How did you manage with family, business, or work, everything that you had? How do you prioritize?
You don't. You prioritize what's important. And to me, my business is more important because it's for my family. See, people could tell me, hey, work-life balance. That doesn't exist, bro. It doesn't exist. Especially if you're in the startup stages of your business, that does not exist. So I've been in business 9 years and I work more than ever. And at least for the 5-6 years, I never took a vacation. And I still work late hours. I only dedicate Sundays to my family. But what I did to fix that, to make it more, obviously the family's not out of the picture completely. They're in my business. My wife is part of HR. My son, he's managing. He's becoming a trainer in one of the stores. My younger son, I'm teaching him the business. But there's no work-life balance. It doesn't exist. At this point, if I wanted to, I could do it. I could just work my 9 to 5 and then have my team. I have a team that helps me. But it's just what are you trying to leave behind? I'm trying to leave a legacy. I'm trying to build an empire. It's different. Everybody has different goals. It doesn't mean I'm right. It was just, like I said, everybody has their own journey. And I know this is the journey that God wanted me to do. And this is what I'm going to finish.
Nice. No, I totally agree. And from that point, when did you start your first restaurant? How did that come about? And where are you at now? Because, of course, we've seen you talk about the $50 million, empire that you've built. 9 years.
Yeah.
Time.
Yeah, no, yeah. So I opened the first restaurant in, I believe, was 2013, early 2013, January, February, El Encinal Mexican food. I saved up my money. We did some tax money, right? Us Mexicans are always waiting for those taxes. And at that time, and I had a friend, he invested some money there too. That's why I don't believe in partnerships, because I learned so much from being in partnerships, right? But I opened El Encinal Mexican food not knowing nothing about business, but it was the best experience for me because within 3 months, that restaurant failed. So I opened that restaurant undercapitalized. I had no cash reserves. I didn't know about marketing. I didn't know about demographics. So, and I didn't know about locations too. So I opened the restaurant. I within 3 months, I ended up fading El Encinal Mexican food. And then some other guys came in. We ended up partnering up together with some wing concept, and that didn't work. But before I closed El Encinal Mexican food, I created this plate called the Buffalo Fries. Because in San Diego, there's this plate called carne asada fries, and I knew the demographics that I was in. It was chicken, sauce, etc. And I did that plate, and it started selling. So, but I was already out the door. So when I did the wing concept, I did it with those guys, and it started doing okay. But again, partnerships don't work. And I ended up giving him my part of the restaurant, my equity. I gave it to him for free. Well, we're splitting my ways. So I told my wife, you know what? I'm not going to quit. So I failed my first restaurant. I pretty much failed my second partnership restaurant. And then the third one, I told my wife, you know what? Believe in me. I'm going to make this happen. We took a drive to LA. We ended up getting lost on the 22. We landed on the stoplight at 7th and Park. And there's my first restaurant, the Buffalo Spot. Nice. So it was a second generation space. I speak a lot about a second generation restaurant space on my social media. I don't know why people don't believe it, but I opened up that restaurant with $21,000. That's how, because it's an existing restaurant.
Okay, there's two questions that come to my mind. Number one, why don't partnerships work in your opinion?
There's multiple reasons, and there's ways to make them work. But I mean, you could do all the research you want, your due diligence. Most partnerships don't work, but especially family partnerships, they do not work. And that's what I did at the beginning with the Buffalo Spot. So the reason they don't work, it's very simple, because of the vision of each individual. See, at least with my brothers, my vision was way different from theirs. And there's nothing wrong. Mine's not right or theirs is not right. It's what you think is right, that's yours. But if your visions are not aligned, if your vision is family time, and my vision is to grow a company, I'm going to work my butt off, right? But if you're at carne asadas, if you're watching soccer games, or you're taking your kids to soccer games, which you should, it's not going to work out, because I'm going to be working. I'm going to be like, hey, pues, you're not working. I'm growing this team. What's up, right? And just there's friction start happening there. At least that's what happened with us. And then obviously other stuff, right? But I think the way to make any partnership work is just make sure you find silent investors, making sure on your operating agreement there's A and B voting rights, right? You have the voting rights as an A. He has no voting rights as a B. And they just put in the investment and make sure everything's written down exactly who's doing what and what. And it could work there. But there's even a situation there where what could happen is that if they don't understand the industry you're in, there could be conflict. That happened to me too in a partnership. So I brought a partnership in, and we opened a restaurant. The restaurant was doing okay. He thought profits were coming in right away. He didn't understand what food costs, labor was. He thought, we're making this much money, we should have money. No, dude, the net profit, that's where the cash is, right? They don't understand that. And you just go into litigation, or it just becomes a big problem. So that's why I don't believe in partnerships. And when I have done them lately, which is, I don't really have any, is been a silent investor.
Makes sense. And then the second question was about I know you've been talking a lot about carne asadas, quinceañeras, parties, right? I know there's a post that went around there for a long time, and it just keeps on getting a lot of traction. Yeah. So I totally get it. I have my opinion on it. I'll share mine too. But when growing a company, there's a lot of people. I have a lot of entrepreneurs that come to my office. We have over 150 appointments a week. Everybody's a business owner or trying to become a business owner. But the topic of time comes a lot. The topic of how to balance things out comes a lot. Tell us about that video that you made that was viral, and why it was viral, and what can you elaborate more on why you took some time off for quinceañeras?
I didn't take time off from quinceañeras. That's why I'm sharing that, because I wasted a lot of time partying, drinking, friends, women, drugs, and in our culture, this is my culture. That's why I'm sharing it. Everything I share is because I went through. Every weekend there's a carne asada. Every weekend your friends, hey, güey, hacemos una carne asada, tú pones la cerveza, yo traigo la carne, etc. Or, hey, vamos a hacer una quinceañera, ¿quieres padrinos? Okay, padrino de cama, padrino de anillo, vestido. And to me is, we do all these things. Yeah, it's fun. It is fun. I'm not saying it's not fun, but we have nothing to show for it, dude. At least most of the time. And there are people that mention in those comments, hey, I own businesses, I'm very successful, I'm a millionaire, and I do all that. Yeah, dude. But I guarantee you, if you started that business, there's no way you could have done that. There's just no way. Very few, I think, maybe have pulled it off, but I didn't do it that way. I had to work 7 days a week at the beginning. So when I shifted my mindset to not partying, I even missed some of my kids' birthdays at one point, right? Not going to quinceañeras, not going to those carne asadas. And at the end of the day, what are the conversations like in those carne asadas? Puro chisme. Yeah. Okay, güey, ¿qué onda con el clásico? The clásico, el Real Madrid o las Chivas. Hey, güey, it's just a waste of time, bro. I want to be in conversations, money conversations. I want to be in those conversations where people are developing you. You're learning. You always want to be the stupidest one in the room. I always want to be the stupidest one in the room because I'm learning from better people, right? So to me, it's just a waste of time. But people took it like a little bit offensive. At least, honestly, I get better feedback. But there was those really bad comments, right? That is like, que, las memorias, tú que sabes. I'm like, oh, wow, But in reality, that's what it is, man. If you haven't made it, you shouldn't be in those parties. You shouldn't be in those carne asadas because guess what? Once you're done with those carne asadas, Monday comes, you wake up, you don't even want to wake up to go to work for somebody else. So why are you even wasting your time doing that?
Yeah, the question becomes, what are you celebrating?
Exactly, dude. What are you celebrating? Yeah,
good things to think about because a lot of people that come to us, I feel the same way.
Yeah,
I've been there, done that, and it's not everybody's gonna agree with it.
And it's okay.
And it's okay.
Yeah,
everybody has their opinions, but at the end of the day, it's not about what's right. It's not about who's right. It's about what's right. And at the end of the day, if you look at the track record of most successful people, they gave up a lot of time.
Yeah,
you have to give up to go up, and why don't we talk a little bit more about that? Because there's a lot of things I'm sure along the journey that you gave up that now, if you look at, it's not, you're not giving them up for good. You're just delaying. Right? It's delayed gratification. What are some of those fruits that now that you gave that up for a few years, you're able to see a lot more of or that you really value? What are those moments that you value now as an entrepreneur in your journey where you're at now?
Yeah, so before I jump into it, I want to share one more thing. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but not to the facts. And the facts is, if you study every successful person, that's what it is, right? So going right now back to what you're just saying, pretty much, what do I do different? What do I have fun? Pretty much, that's what you're asking, right?
Now, life's changed a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you've delayed for many years. What are some of those fruits on the labor that somebody watching this can say, okay, maybe they want to go to that party, but they know it's not bad that you don't go to the party, but you're putting other things in more ahead as a priority than maybe just going to that party because you're going to have a lot more of that later. What are some of those that you have now that you're just like, that make you think, damn, it was worth it?
There's a lot. I mean, I work my ass off. I still do. I think I'm the first one that wakes up in my company. I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I have the work ethic I have. I think,
man, I'm going to sleep at that time, man. What you talking about?
I wake up at 4:30 in the morning and I go to sleep at 11. I have a very, very strict routine, bro. Nice. There's a lot of pros to becoming an entrepreneur. Number one, I own my time. You might say, "Yes, pero trabajas mucho." But guess what, dude? Like, when you love what you do, you don't ever work another day of your life. I can't wait. Like, it's the weekend and I can't wait till it's Monday. Or it's a holiday. I don't like holidays, bro. Like, the streets are by themselves. Like, the vendors are not answering, And so I think, like, a couple of things that I do, like, I could give you an example. Like, when I go on vacation now, I take my whole family. And not just my immediate family. My mom, my suegra. So I pay for that, right? That's a gratification I have that I'm able to do that, right? Recently, like, we were craving a dessert from Vegas. And we spent $4,000 just to go have that dessert in Vegas. If I want to
which one was it? Because I just got here from Vegas like not even a day ago.
You know what? I don't know what it's called, but
I almost want to go back right now. If you're gonna tell me.
I'm gonna give this guy free marketing, bro. But it's the Hell's Kitchen, the toffee dessert. I love it, bro.
Okay, Chef Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah,
sponsor the dessert for us.
Yeah, yeah. It's the best dessert I've ever had.
So the one right outside of Caesars.
Yeah. Okay. So we flew out there and we had the dessert, and so stuff like that, bro, or like I do Disney VIP tours, Universal Tour VIP tours. I take my close team with me to a lot of events. There's just things you couldn't do, and I could have as many carne asadas as I want, dude. Before, like a ver quién pone para la carne asada, no? Now it's like we get the best meat, Like, I don't worry about. There's something that I learned since I was little. I'm gonna share a story when I was little, dude. When I was little, my mom was struggling a lot. She didn't have money to even survive at some point, so she would have to go get help. So we couldn't even have a cheeseburger with cheese, bro. So my mom ended up getting remarried. I was around 11 or 10, 9, 10, 11, right? And even when she remarried, we would go on a drive-thru in Jack in the Box, and they would have us get a 99 cheese a burger without cheese. Though. So to me, I grew up with that, dude. Like I'm like, dude, like when I grow up, I'm never gonna be that. And so whoever eats out with me, dude, I don't never look at the tab, bro, ever. So to me, I'm proud of that I'm able to work, and I've had some big tabs, bro. Very big tabs.
What was the biggest tab that you're touching the tab?
Like $8,000, $8,000. And I don't hesitate. I tell my team, grab whatever you want. Like, no se preocupen del precio. And I'm the same way.
Make sure we note down to go eat with this guy.
Let's go. But those are the pros. Those are the perks of being an entrepreneur. Yeah, you work your ass off. You spend a lot of time in your business, but then your family knows that there's this time of year that you're going to go all out. And it could be suddenly one weekend. You know what? ¿Qué hacemos este domingo? Oh, let's go to Vegas. Oh, let's go to Disney. Let's go wherever, right? Like right now, we're going to take my kid for his birthday to Orlando, to Universal Studios on a VIP tour. And I'm taking the whole family, bro. I even invited some of my team, but they couldn't go, right? Sucks for them. It was fun, bro. So it's going to be fun. But those are the perks. That's what I'm telling you. Like now, ahorita sí disfruto, but you got to sacrifice, bro. We want things, especially this generation now, they want everything like on the go. They want everything fast. And there's no such thing as building wealth fast. It takes time. And there's proven little crumbles that these successful people have left, right? It's waking up early. Be the first to wake up. Don't waste your time. Make sure you surround yourself with the right people. Make sure you read. You invest in your personal growth. Make sure you eat healthier because you need your machine is your best investment, right? Your time, your body. Make sure you have faith. Make sure you're courageous. There's a lot of stuff, right? Your affirmations. There's a lot of crumbles that are out there that you should be following.
What was one of the biggest advice or lessons that maybe you learned while you were growing up in the game that really you think changed a lot of things for you?
The biggest advice recently that I just received, it was from one of my mentors, a very wealthy guy in real estate. He said, don't take life so serious. Because I was always like, serious. Now I have more fun. I take my business very serious. My team knows that. But now I'm like, okay, I'm going to live the moment. And I've had that advice twice, but now recently I just got it and I took it, right? My other mentor, he was just in a podcast. I was going through this big lawsuit. Obviously, you know, we're in California. We're always going through that. Yeah. And I, you know what, dude, like this, and that. He's like, you'll be okay. But then he left and he called me, Ivan, you know what? Just don't take it serious. Everything's going to be okay. Just play it, have fun with it. And you've been here 9 years and you're going to be okay. I've been in business 22 years and I'm okay. Somehow we're going to figure this shit out. So that's the biggest advice, you know, and for obviously from the streets, obviously the advice I've always given, I tell my kids the same thing. Don't trust nobody.
That's a controversial subject. Why do you say that?
Yeah, dude, because most people will flip on you. Most people will flip on you. Very rare. And then I do certain things, right, to test people, right, to see who's really there. But most people will flip on you. If it gets hot enough, they'll flip on you. It could be on the streets. It could be in business, a lawsuit, an anger, even family, bro. I went through it. So it's very hard. There's only a few people I could tell you that will not flip on me. And one of them, the biggest one is my mom. And I could probably say my wife and my kids. And then outside of that circle, there's very few people. And they know who they are.
How do you... it's a good subject because one of my mentors always told me, he's like, believe in people, but don't believe people. Let their actions, teach what they're actually about. But how do you hire people with that mindset?
You hire with that mindset because first, you can't build a great company without a team, right? So the way you do that is, at least as we go through a big interview process, and I spend a lot of time with those people. At least my key people, spend time with them. I spend time with seeing who they are, their habits, how they act, what's important to them, what's not important to them, how they gossip about other people, like all those stuff I take into account, right, on how they're acting, right? And then I make a decision who's going to be part of my circle. And then there's people that are in their circle sometimes that, oh, shoot, this guy's about to flip. We have to take him out, right, out of the circle. I didn't even say take him out, right? I mean, out of that circle, you know.
Sure you don't edit that part out.
Yeah, take him out of the circle of trust. Okay.
Take him out.
Yeah, but yeah, dude, the streets, it's the best thing you can learn from the streets is that, bro. Because in the streets, you're always watching your back. You never know who's gonna snitch on you. You never know who's gonna do you dirty. And in the business world, same thing, bro. Like, it's crazy how people flip on you. They sue you. Obviously, it's different, right? It's not, you don't have to worry about getting stabbed or shot or whatever. But now it's like lawsuits, right? Who's gonna steal money from you? Who's gonna be doing you dirty that way? It's a little bit different.
Got it. Yeah, no. I asked because I know that's the problem a lot of people have. Similar to what you were saying, sometimes it's hard to trust others, but to build an empire, you can't build it on your own.
Yeah.
Right. And in your case, from going to the first restaurant, how did you scale to where you're at now? Because that's a big problem most people have, and even during these times that we live in, it's even more of a. I wouldn't say it's more difficult because I believe there's opportunity in every kind of economy, but there's a lot more barriers to entry right now. Because of so much competition. How do you differentiate your guys' self as, in your businesses and scale?
There's never a right time, first of all, right? Mm-hmm. You say there's competition. There's always been competition, right? So at the end of the day, I think that it's it's okay to be scared, because I'm still scared of certain stuff. But you have to jump. There's no way around that. So I opened, like I said, El Encinal, I failed. I opened that with another partnership, another brand. That failed. I opened a Buffalo spot in Long Beach, California on 7th and Park, and that one was failing. I was selling like $400, $500 a day. I had to work open to close, right? And it's weird because I'm failing, and I even had to sleep in the restaurant because I didn't have enough money because I'm from San Diego. I didn't have enough money to drive back to San Diego. So I had to sleep in the restaurant. So I was looking in Craigslist, and I was making that restaurant, like I was working there, etc. But then I'm like, I got to do something different. So I jumped on social media and posted free buffalo fries. People started walking and started doing flyers, free buffalo fries. That's how I did my marketing there. But then within 2 months, I think this was in January, around a month and a half, I ended up having to look in Craigslist, and I found a second location. And everybody would tell me, how are you opening a second location if you just failed your first restaurant, your second restaurant also, and now your third restaurant you're about to fail, and you're looking to open a second, pretty much a fourth location, second location to the Buffalo Spot brand. And it was in Compton. I went to go look at it. It was a full restaurant. It had just closed. It was a Chinese food. And I ended up making an offer. I asked a friend of mine to borrow some money. It was like $14,000, $15,000. And I made an offer. I got that restaurant. So once I opened that restaurant, I opened it with $15,000. That restaurant was a hit. So that was my successful restaurant that kind of saved who I am now in the Buffalo Spot brand. Because once I opened the restaurant and the marketing I started doing on social media, the sales just started going up. So opening the second restaurant, we started seeing some good sales, some good momentum. Then I had an investor come in, and he wanted to open 2 stores with me. So I got into that business deal. And it didn't work out, obviously. So we opened our 4th location. Obviously, I bought them out. And then from there, I had some people come to me, consultants on franchising. And I said no. Then a couple of months later, another one came. And I said yes. And that's how we grew the Buffalo Spot brand with corporate and franchise.
So, that makes me think, in the times we live in, for a lot of business owners here that are very traditional, very old school, a lot of the Latinos especially, very old school. They don't use social media. How important do you think social media is in business nowadays with the way the world is?
I don't blame them, because I was the same way months ago, right? Mm-hmm. And I was more like that because, again, trust, right? Because I like being very private. Mm-hmm. But I think if you're not on social media, you're a dinosaur. You're getting ready to be extinct. It's that easy. Because look what I did in 4 months. Like my brand awareness, personal brand, even my companies, right? And it's just taking off. The amount of business that I'm getting to the restaurants, the amount of business that I'm giving a lot of free content. I'm not even charging for it right now, right? But it's just crazy that somebody would not be in social media. You're just getting ready to go out of business. You're setting yourself up for failure for sure.
No, I love that. And talking about social media, I know a lot of you guys watching us here at home, every single week we have an episode on our FFC episode or FFC page, Familia Farias Consulting on Instagram. You guys have the opportunity to, on our stories, ask questions. I know we had quite a bit of questions. Is it okay if we go through some of those?
Let's go.
I know we had some questions from some of the followers and just people that want to know more of the behind the scenes, your mindset, business. If you're watching us for the first time, make sure every week you tune in. There will be a story. There will be a suggestions and questions box. This is your chance. All the good questions, they get to come live on the podcast. He asked me what the questions were. I didn't tell him. I promise. But let's go through some of these questions. I know, actually, there are a lot of good questions. So right now, this is actually for a lot of people that want to invest in the Buffalo spot. This is a good question that actually quite a bit of people asked. They said, how much is it right now to franchise one of the Buffalo spots or one of the current restaurants that you have?
Right. I mean, obviously, I don't take investments because I don't do partnerships, but it would have to be through franchising, right? Yes. So franchise fees around $45,000. That's just the franchise fees that's able to use our intellectual property, our logos, and our training and the support from the franchisor. A lot of people franchise not thinking about how important it is to support the franchisee. So that's what you pay for that. And then obviously the cost to do the build out. The build out could cost you could do it for a lot less, but on our FDD it's around $200,000 to $500 and something thousand. That's to build a restaurant, right? So that's kind of the cost. A lot of these franchisees, most actually, in any franchise system, they use SBA loans or they use their 401k or equity from their home, but most of them are SBA loans.
Okay. So there you go. If you're looking to franchise potentially, how can they get in contact with a franchising team? Or?
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple ways. You could go to thebuffalospotfranchise.com or email us at franchise. What was it, our email, Terry? franchise@thebuffalospot.com.
Got it. There you go. Next question. I know we have a lot of young entrepreneurs here. One of them actually asked, what mentality did you have opening up your first restaurant and versus the mentality you have now when you're expanding and growing your current company?
Man, that switch just happened recently, and it was a hard one. When you're an entrepreneur, even in the streets, we go back to that, you're a hustler. Mm-hmm. You're a true hustler, dude. Like, you're just working and you're like a bulldozer. And I recently made the decision that the hustler had to die and the CEO had to be born. So that shift of mind is now I delegate. That's what I'm trying to say. I delegate a lot of the tasks. Now I focus on the vision, on the mission, on the relationships. I still did a lot of that, but to me was work. Now I'm doing my job as a CEO.
Beautiful. No, I love that. That's on point. They see, so this is a good question because if you look around, there's a lot of books. They talked about, okay, they know you like to read. What are maybe the top 3 books so far? And I know that's a difficult question because I have a library that's crazy as well. And when they ask me that, it's very hard, but I do have a list as well. What are your top 3 books and what got you into reading? Because most people like me, I went all the way through university, probably without opening a whole book. The books were the table setters that balance the tables, but maybe you're different.
No, we're not different, bro. I didn't know I love reading. I literally love reading, bro. Like, I have a lot of books. You see these are just a little bit of my books. The answer I'm gonna give, and it's very important. I'm not a Bible thumper, but the most important book to me is the Bible, and I'll tell you why. Just with the book of Proverbs, all the knowledge you have there, and then my second book is Think and Grow Rich. But if you really think about it, Proverbs has all that in there. Think and Grow Rich. Obviously, number 1 is the Bible. Think and Grow Rich. And I think the third one is one of the books that kind of opened my mind is Rich Dad Poor Dad. But there's so many of them, to be honest. It's hard to choose, but if I could choose, I know number 1 is the Bible. That's for sure. So desempolven la Biblia and just go straight into Proverbs.
There you go. No, and that's the Proverbs. I agree with you because for me it was difficult reading the Bible initially because I didn't understand the language. So I started with the book of Proverbs, and that helped.
Yeah,
a lot of that.
The way I go about Proverbs is, for example, today is the 10th, right? I read the 10th, Every day I read one proverb, one day of the month.
Cool tip. A question is, there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there. What do you think makes you different? And I think you answered it very well at the beginning when we talked about just the kind of content you're putting out now. Why don't you elaborate?
I mean, there's a lot of things that make me different, right? But like I said, there's a lot of crumbles that all these entrepreneurs leave. And I think you don't have to reinvent the wheel to be successful. But I think one of the biggest things that make me different, and I'm not saying others don't have it, but number one, I'm very faith-driven. Very faith-driven. And then obviously what I'm doing right now with my content is I'm leaving legacy content. I'm more focused in that than trying to gain followers. And in that aspect of social media, I'm not worried about who's following me, if you like me or not. I'm more worried about if I'm leaving the right type of content to my kids. I want them to learn from my mistakes. I want them to learn how you think. Like, who you see on social media is who I really am. Like, if I have a Rolex, it's I paid for it cash. It's not fronted, right? So that's kind of what it is. But I think my faith is the biggest thing. And I can't say working hard because there's a lot of people working hard out there. But I'm pretty sure I could outwork anybody, dude. It's just, I'm so driven, dude. It's freaking crazy, bro. Yeah.
Well, that leads to a question of mine. How did you get so driven? Because a lot of people, they know how to work hard and they have goals, but having a specific drive, I understand that a lot. And how did you get driven? Like, what helps you? What's behind that drive?
There's a lot of things, man. There's a lot of things. I'm very hungry, right? Just obviously the way I grew up, I didn't have anything, right? I don't want my kids to be that way. And obviously you can't give your kids everything because then they won't learn any lessons. But I think that's one. And then the other one is for many years, I still remember, dude, in 6th grade, this was this teacher. And I'm not going to say her name. But she told me, dude, like she told me.
Who she is.
You know who you are. Yeah. But she told me that I wasn't going to be anything in life. And I get it why, dude. I'm desmadroso, but that's not the route you want to go with any kid. And I do want to thank those teachers in middle school that were there for me too, right? Like, you know who those teachers are, right? But I always remember that, dude. And there's certain people. That's why I love haters, dude. To me, the best thing that could happen to me is a hater, somebody to talk shit about me. I just can't wait till they say something bad so I could like show them that, like, dude, here you go. So I need haters to push me, and obviously I also need haters to tell me my shit how it is, because haters are always gonna throw your shit out there, and your loved ones won't, not to hurt you. So I learn a lot from haters, but I also need them to push me. Yeah.
Really good. Hopefully you guys are taking notes. I know this is definitely an episode where you want to have a pen, something to write down with, because there's a lot of we have all types of guests, and I love the fact that for those of you watching us for the first time, you get to learn from people who actually have created something. I went to a private business school. I spent like 50-something thousand through scholarships because I grew up in HP. I was the same.
Yeah.
One out of the whole professors had ever actually ran a successful business.
Yeah.
The majority hadn't. That's why I created this channel. I said, I'm going to bring people who actually have fruit on the tree to share that. And so appreciate you doing that. I know, of course, this. Okay. Well, this is a good question. What are your next goals? I know you've built this empire to where you have so far.
Yeah.
What's next?
What's next is obviously we're gonna build a national brand, and from there we're gonna be worldwide. I have short-term, long-term goals, and everybody tells me, hey, even family has told me, why don't you retire? Like, you're doing very good. There's no such thing as retiring. It's not even in the Bible. You don't hear the word retirement. I don't plan on retiring. As long as God gives me good health. And I pray that to God all the time. Hey, you just give me the health and the energy, and I'll take care of the rest. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for certain material things. Just give me the health and the energy, and I promise you that I'll give it everything I have to build something for you, because all my business belong to Him. So my next goals is obviously we're gonna build a national brand, and we're moving towards those goals right now, and then from there we're gonna go worldwide.
Somebody here wanted you to talk about the all-in mentality. What does that mean to you?
To everybody is different, right? But the all-in mentality that's what it is. It's all in, right? What does that mean? No carne asadas, no quinceañeras, sacrificing some family time that you're going to have to. And if you feel family is very important, then you should really be doing it for your family. You don't want your number one goal, at least one of my biggest goals was to take my wife out of work at one point. And I did that, right? And then you have goals. I want to make 10,000 a month, right? And then 20, 40, 50, 60, 100,000 a month, right? So the all-in mentality, dude, you are not going to stop. You're going to sacrifice everything you have to sacrifice because you love your family, and you're not going to stop until you accomplish that. And once you accomplish that, you don't get comfortable. You keep going.
No, I love that. You know, it's funny, though. I know a lot of the people who say that about, oh, you don't want to spend time with your family, this and that. I don't know if it's just me, but I don't know if you notice as well when you go out to eat with the family or something. See, all these people are always on their phone.
Yeah.
They're always on their phone. They're actually not spending time with their family.
So I made a video about that, you know, because I did that too. I'm not going to lie. But now what I do is, because I get home late, you know, and I get home and I put my phone aside for an hour at least. Mm-hmm. And I really play with my kids. So a lot of these guys, they say, oh, family is important. But then you ¿de qué te cuesta? What does it matter if you're 8 hours with your kid, but you're on their phone and he's like, Dad. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make no sense, right? And at the end of the day, if you really think about it as a kid, you didn't want to be with your parents too. 8 hours, an hour, 30. You want to be with your
quality time versus quantity.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, as a kid, you want to be playing, bro. You don't want to be with your parents, you know. Yeah. So just give them an hour, dude. An hour, a good quality time, wrestle with them, play with them. That's what I do. I'm not telling people what to do. Everything I share is what I do. Yeah. Sometimes my message in social media sounds like that, but the reason I say that because, you know, a lot of people ask for that information. Mm-hmm. I'm not sharing it for the haters. I'm sharing it for the people that have been asking in my DMs. There's a lot of people that are following me that want my information, and I'm just giving it to them. Yeah. The haters are the ones that are like, nah, stay away, you know. So it is what it is.
I have to throw that in there because I feel the same way, and I love seeing all those people not spending time with their family, as mentioning that we should be spending time.
That's right.
That's a good question. When do you know, or when do you think you'll get to the point where you feel like you've made it?
I've already made it, bro. Mm-hmm. You know, I woke up this morning. To me, I already made it, right? I have a legacy that I have to build. As of right now, it's not about money. And I'm sure that's where that question is coming from. To me, it's not about money anymore. To me, it's about building a legacy. To me, it's about building more millionaires. And I've built a couple with franchising, right? I have managers that used to work for me that now own 4 or 5 restaurants because I opened that door. So to me, it's just leaving a legacy because I know I'm going to leave this world someday. Hopefully it's not soon. Hopefully it's when I'm very old. But when I leave, most people get se olvidan de ellos. And I'm not going to be one of those. You see all those frames in the back, dude. Nobody has forgotten those guys because they built something special. You know, some we don't agree with on some of the stuff they do or say or whatever, but they changed the world, bro. And that's what I'm here to do. I want to be the greatest Hispanic restaurateur of the world, and I'm going to make that happen.
You heard it here first.
There you go.
Let's see. I know we'll just there's a lot of questions, so we'll just go maybe 3 more. And if you guys want to get to know more, of course, you guys can definitely reach out to him directly. Follow him on social media. There's a lot of content he's going to be putting out these next lifetime.
A lot, bro. A lot.
Lifetime.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Let's see when. Okay, this is good. This one's the same. Okay. I know people like numbering things. So, top 5 things that you recommend for a new business starting up.
5 top things. I think if you're an entrepreneur, obviously, when you start the business and you're getting some traction, hire an assistant.
That's number 1.
Number 1. Number 2, a bookkeeper. Okay.
Number 2.
Number 3, an HR person.
Especially in California.
Especially in Cali, for sure.
Number 3, for sure.
Number 4, marketing. That's the way I go, right? And number 5, to me, is at the end, is operations.
What about operations?
A district manager, director of operations. It depends on the stage you are in business. But the first person I would hire, and that just changed this year for me, I would have hired an assistant, because the assistant As an entrepreneur, you're doing so much. You're a plumber, you're everything, right? And there are tedious tasks that there's special people for that. People that are more diligent. Because as an entrepreneur, we're always very creative. So what happens with most entrepreneurs, why they quit, because they start a business, they're in love, they're emotional, but they started because they love what they're doing. But then you start adding all that administrative, you start adding all that
tedious work,
and they lose that passion. And there's people that are very special, like my assistant Terry. She's very, very good at what she does. She is.
Shout out Francine, she watching.
Yeah.
She's my assistant too.
Yeah. So and she's better than me. There's people, and the other mistake that we make is that we think we could do, because we're very controllable, right? We micromanage. We think we do everything better than everybody else, and that's not true.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Well, thank you for that. Second question. What's the biggest lesson you've learned so far in the restaurant industry that you think?
The biggest, man, there's in the restaurant industry.
People ask, my crowd asks tough questions.
Those are really good questions, bro. But in the restaurant industry, there's so many. I think the biggest lesson I've learned recently is and people might get mad about this, right? But I think the most important thing about a business is marketing. It used to be HR for me. And I'll tell you why, because without marketing, it doesn't bring in sales. And I learned this with my personal brand, everything that I'm doing, right? And if you don't have sales, you can't hire people, you can't build a culture. So to me, that switch of mentality, I think that it's marketing right now. That's the biggest lesson I just learned recently.
Okay. And then the last one, let me see, there's a lot. Okay, this is a good one. When you pass away, what would you like your kids and the family that's around you to know about you?
To know about me that they don't know, or that they already know?
What kind of legacy would you like to leave behind is the question.
Okay, that's a very easy one. I was a man that looked for God's heart. That I was always looking for God's heart. You know, that I was very faith driven. That my number one priority in this world was to glorify Him, and making sure I left a legacy built around His foundation. That's what I want to be known by my family.
Love that. I love that. And I know there's a lot of people watching us here that have the entrepreneur drive. They just maybe don't have direction. They've never had an example, things like that. Any advice or anything you want to leave them with if they're hearing this for the first time and maybe they don't have anybody encouraging them or guiding them or kind of giving them that push?
Yeah, if you want to become an entrepreneur, it's definitely get started. Just get started. Don't put it aside. Because I don't have money, because I don't have You'll find a way if you're going to get started. That's number one. Number two, don't quit. And when I say don't quit, doesn't mean you're going to fail in a business. Because I failed in a lot of businesses, is when you fail, you keep going. That's not quitting. So those are the lessons, because a lot of people just quit. A lot of people don't start, and a lot of people quit too soon. If I would have quit, I wouldn't be here with you right now speaking.
Very true. Well, before we wrap up, just want to thank you for accepting the invitation. I know, shout out to the homie Paco. He knows who he is.
Paco's a man.
I'd like to say he planted the seed to make this happen. So, saludos. And just want to thank you for accepting the invite and having us here today. I know our crowd, loves being able to not only share another story of somebody who's Latino as well, because, of course, we're a multicultural business. We have clients in every kind of ethnicity, every kind of background. Me, just the fact being Latino, being Mexican, I love the fact that I can see other people of similar background succeed and progress in life and just open more doors. So just want to say thank you for being that example for a lot of people here. Thank you for accepting the invitation. And, we really hope that all those goals that you talked about, I know they're going to come true because I can see the kind of person you are, but just want to say thank you for accepting the invite and having us here today. And I hope everybody watching at home got some value. If you want to get more content, you want to get to know Ivan a little bit more, you want to just understand the background of entrepreneurship and what it really takes to succeed, do yourself two favors. Number one, go follow this guy. All his information is at below. And number two, make sure you follow us as well, because we're going to be putting more and more content this year similar to this, where we get to share stories of people who have created success, give you some platforms and ideas for you guys to grow from and have a good foundation for you foundationally on the business side of things. And number 3, hopefully inspire you guys with other examples of people like you who have made it. So with that, just want to wrap up the episode. Thank you again, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.